Hi everyone. Meeting situations are quite simply when there is a narrowing in space and you have to deal with oncoming traffic. Here, there's no spaces for me to get a little bit further up the road, so I'm clearly saying to this vehicle coming down in the opposite direction that I'm letting them go. People are really poor at these situations. What should I do now with the Audi? It's turning. What a cracking signal. Brilliant. Allowed me to proceed up the road. I'm still going to deal with the next one coming, but people are terrible at these situations. It doesn't always have to be parked vehicles either side. It could be traffic calming measures, it could be bridges, whether it be a humpback bridge or going underneath an arched bridge. But like I said, people are terrible at them, so it's what we're going to be looking at today. Let's crack on.
In this first clip, I think my viewer and the van driver were a little fast. If either had been a few miles an hour more, that could have ended up in a collision. However, they both end up sorting this quite comfortably. There aren't many single track roads like this in Liverpool, however, I know they are abundant in different parts of the country. Classic John territory this. My viewer found this nice space in front of the driveway, and now it's time to get going again. Or is it? Expect yourself to be held up from time to time if you do regularly use roads like this. So we had a pretty good example to start. All the clips aren't going to be like this though. The workers up ahead are starting to put out some temporary lights. This is a classic meeting situation also. My viewer should have been given priority, but the other vehicle didn't want to wait. And if we have a look at the situation from the rear cam, we can also see that the driver oncoming didn't want to wait for this red light. And even if it wasn't on red when that car approached, the driver still should have waited for my viewer.
Are you thinking of buying a used car? Cool, but that clean history the seller promised might be holding more secrets than 007. There are many cars listed as perfect condition that have actually been in major accidents, had mileage rollbacks, or even been stolen. That's why I would run the VIN number or the registration through the Car Vertical website before you even think of a test drive. In seconds you get the full history, mileage, accident reports, MOT history and ownership changes. Everything. No guesswork, no nasty surprises. Imagine paying full price for a car that's been crashed, fixed up and flipped. That's how people lose thousands. Car Vertical has saved my viewers on many occasions, they've told me. If you've had an experience like that, please leave a comment under the pinned link. Trusting a seller's word? That's not clever. Trusting verified data? That's smart. Remember, if you use my link that's in the description or the code Ashley, you're going to save yourself 20% on checking out your next car. Thanks, Car Vertical.
It's not VFO footage, but I've tried to stabilise it as much as I can. Anyway, this is a tricky one. There's a parked vehicle up on this corner and the view's restricted. The best thing to do here is hold back and position for the best view, to see and be seen. And I think my viewer gets in a little close where they didn't need to, and it makes it difficult. I must say though, the car coming from the opposite direction is also a little fast. My viewer's already committed and the silver vehicle should have held back in my opinion. However, my viewer fixes the problem nicely. Remember, don't assume priority in situations like this. Just because the obstruction is not on your side of the road doesn't automatically give you priority. A classic case of follow the leader. I thought my viewer was trying to be a little too positive here. You do have to communicate to the oncoming drivers to show them you'd like to proceed, but this was a bit much. The driver of the Audi was about to follow then also, weren't they? Remember, priority is given, not taken. And this is a perfect example. The oncoming car was giving my viewer priority, so they're able to take it. Don't just barge through. Here's an example of how things should be done. Notice the slight move back to the left, and this is going to continue. This improves view and shows that my viewer, Smiler Bob, is ready to give way. And don't forget, that all happened before the car appeared. A nice positive hold back position near the centre line and then a continue when the car has passed. Perfect. But we haven't finished with this clip yet. Smiler Bob spots the bus coming from the opposite direction. They need more room. It's another meeting situation. He holds back again, keeps to the left and allows the space. Everyone flows nicely. Nice job. Another good job by one of my viewers. Even though the cyclist did have lights, it was hard to differentiate where the cyclist was for a moment. Hold back is always the best option. For me, the cyclist should not be trying to filter here. And while we're on the subject of cyclists, I'd just like to remind people that they have as much right on the road as anyone else. My viewer again here does a brilliant job. Treat cyclists as another vehicle. This is a great example of ceding priority when it's best for flow. First of all, my viewer takes a great position to the left of the lane, and that allows the flow of the traffic from the opposite side coming past the parked vehicles. But a bit further up, my viewer spots some flashing lights. There's a tractor coming. The problem's also compounded when a vehicle from the same direction my viewer's travelling tries to use a space on the right hand side. Think of all the traffic that's backing up through the junction behind the tractor. My viewer thinks exactly this and decides to wait. A perfect decision in this situation. It didn't cost my viewer any time whatsoever, and the driver of the tractor appreciated the gesture. My viewer doesn't do a brilliant job here. There's a fair bit to go through with this clip. The sign on the left said my viewer should be given priority, and the oncoming car here does a brilliant job, but my viewer hesitates. Because of the parked car on the left, the oncoming vehicle held back and left enough space, but my viewer refuses to go, and it's when these vehicles now move forward that the problem gets worse. The driver of the four-wheel drive gets fed up and just carries on, which leaves a gap for my viewer to go, but the blue car decides to move first. Okay, no big deal. But I would be creeping now, and that tells a clear story to the vehicles oncoming and this one to the left now trying to reverse out that it was my turn. There's a fair bit of target fixation going on by my viewer, and they don't seem to understand how their movement can tell a story of what should be going on. And they're also not reading what other people are saying by their lack of movement. Again, I would have continued here. The space is without question good enough. Left knee in the middle and you'll be fine. The space is a fair bit larger than the width of the vehicles, but my viewer stays still, and the oncoming vehicles correctly get moving again. If my viewer's not going to go, they're fine continuing. The driver of the red vehicle clearly tells a story and stops, and ironically my viewer does decide to proceed, into a gap that was smaller than the one before. That was frustrating doing the talk over on that clip. I'm sure it was the same for you watching. It's often a good idea to give way to road users who are coming uphill, and this was a definite case of this. Stopping and then starting again is much more difficult, especially on a hill of this steepness. Nice job. Nice care going down this section also. This was a nice job by my viewer. They recognise that the vehicle up ahead is towing a caravan, but what I'd like to mention here is be very careful of using soft verges like this. You could quite easily slip into that little ditch. Sometimes it's difficult to tell just how sharply that verge drops away. All good here though, and don't forget, it's much easier for you to manoeuvre rather than someone towing a caravan. When the obstruction's on your side of the road, effectively it's your problem. But if you've committed and you've got nowhere to go, the other vehicles should give way. In this situation, it's quite difficult to see, but there is an oncoming vehicle visible. My viewer should have waited in this space to the left, but they don't. They continue. The oncoming driver also doesn't do a brilliant job. Plenty to improve on all round from this clip. This is as tricky as it gets. You should be giving priority, but you can't see the oncoming vehicles. A nice slow edge out is all you can do here, and it was good to see the oncoming vehicles ready to deal with it. The roads aren't wide enough to cope with modern vehicles, unfortunately, so if you do have to go up a curb, make sure you do it really slowly and safely, and make sure there's no pedestrians around. This clip was much more satisfying than the last one. Everyone seems to be doing the correct things and helping flow the best way they can. No me situations. Quite simply, great appreciation from my viewer here that they're probably not seen. A reflection in something is the only way that they would have been spotted. Narrow bridges are often meeting situations. Look at the sign on the left. Try and cross view before you get there to get a pre-idea whether there's someone coming over or not. But always be slow enough to deal with it if there is, and be ready to reverse. No problems here. I'd like to say a massive thanks to all my viewers who keep sending in these brilliant clips. And I'd also like to say well done to everyone who tries to act in a non-event manner when someone does something wrong.
Hopefully there's a few things within that video that have helped you out. Reflections here, that was definitely mentioned. I'm just ready to give way, and don't forget, you do have generally a reverse gear on your vehicle, maybe not a motorbike or a cycle, but going backwards is sometimes an option as well. Keep safe everyone, I'll see you soon.